Hello. Hi there. Laura, how are you?
Good, good, good. I'm the only one.
So far, I just started the meeting, so we'll be trickling in. Anna will be here soon.
Good.
How are things going?
Oh, fine. Spending some time Zooming.
Oh my goodness, isn't that like the new normal?
Yeah, yeah.
I resisted everything at first, but there's been some interesting, unexpected benefits. Like I've been hosting classes and tutorials, and people come from all over the world. So we'll have like 150 people, which we couldn't possibly have done before.
Yeah. I'm doing a humanities class through the U of A, and they would normally limit the size, but I think it's 130.
Yeah.
So,
And so I mean, that's one of the benefits.
yeah.
And I was chatting with someone from a news program today, and they said they think this whole Zoom thing is going to change the face of television forever. Like people are now going to have these expectations of much closer interaction, which is cool. So yeah. It's like jump-starting a bunch of interesting new things.
Yeah.
What is your main field?
Financial advice for young adults.
Oh my goodness, what a great thing to do.
Yeah, so it's easy for them. They're fine with it. And I actually think they're more comfortable than coming into an office that, you know, is maybe a little bit intimidating. So
yeah, for sure. They're much more comfortable online.
Yeah, yeah. So it's been absolutely fine. I just discovered something fun that the Frick Museum in New York does cocktails with the curator.
So, fun.
On Fridays. And so apparently I haven't had a chance to look at one, but she'll select a work of art and talk about it, and also talk about a related cocktail.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So I think people are being creative.
That's funny because my husband and I are talking about, we were just shooting the breeze a few weeks ago and with a friend, and they said we should do expedition cocktails that got like famous on expeditions. And I'm thinking we were talking about Ray Turner of Tumamoc Hill.
Great.
Because he was famous for what I now know is called a paloma.
Oh.
And so we thought, well, who else? So we found out couple of British cocktails were invented in Egypt during the campaign in the desert. So
that's a great
so maybe
idea.
We'll do an online thing, like do a virtual field trip and do an expedition cocktail.
Yeah, I think that's a fun idea. Why not?
So you've done these ones at the Frick?
No, I just found out about it recently, and I just logged into it before I started this meeting to see what they offered. So I'll definitely try it soon.
That'll be fun. I'll look at that. That's one of the things we miss the most about this whole COVID thing is no travel and museums. We love art and museums, and I just really miss it. I don't we're not social otherwise.
So I do think it's a great opportunity for museums to do virtual tours and to talk about the pieces of art. I mean, it would be almost more interesting to me rather than fighting a crowd.
Yeah, it's a lot more intimate, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they do it right. A consortium of museums in Europe and North America. And now I can't remember who was involved, but it was a huge, so it's usually this like big week and people do it in person, but they decided to do it all online. And it was like this gigantic, you did have to pay for some of it, but it was a gigantic like tours of the back rooms and lectures by the, I'll have to look up what that was. I missed it. We weren't able to do it, but.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Good. So where is everybody?
So we've got 4 minutes.
4 minutes. There's somebody.
We'll see. How many people do you usually get on, or does it vary wildly?
Usually 20, 22, somewhere around there.
That's good. I know John Sarton is on his way to the Sierras.
Oh, is that where he was going? That sounds nice.
Yeah. I saw him at the post office. I didn't recognize him. He had, we both had masks on, and this, this person was like, Roseann. I'm like, who are you?
Who is it?
Who do you want? There we go. See?
Hi, Rachel.
I think this is the first time that a password's been required.
No, it isn't. We've used it before.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, with no problems. Actually, we were kind of when we first used one, we were like, oh, we'll see how this goes, but it worked all right.
Good.
Do you have any like last minute text panics where people are like, I can't get on?
Initially, we had that for the first like 1 or 2 of these, but then those got smoothed out for the most part. It was mostly some people were working with computers that were older and would not allow the app to actually install, so they had to go through like the web link instead.
I've got to figure that out for my mom. My mom wants to do go to my workshop this weekend, and she's 90, and she was really defeated by the download thing. So I think you can do it just on the web link, right?
That's right.
I'll try to walk her through that.
Mm-hmm. It'll automatically prompt her to download the app, but if you click out of that, you can go through the web.
Okay, I'll see if I can get her through that.
Yeah.
She gets frustrated and gives up. I was watching Beto's tour of the garden. It was really cool.
Yeah, that came out well. That was a fun. We tried to do that was one of those technical things. We tried to do a share screen showing a video, and that didn't work.
No. So how did you do it?
We ended up just giving everyone the YouTube link. And everyone to go to YouTube. We took a break from the Zoom, and then we came back to Zoom at a set point for discussion.
Okay, now you've got me scared.
Yeah. No, it wasn't working.
Were you trying to share it from YouTube?
I'm not sure. I think so. Ben was trying to do a share screen showing a YouTube video.
Sometimes YouTube throttles those because they're not sure you own the video.
Oh, interesting. I think that's definitely what was happening. It was like some buffering issue, and it was nobody could watch it. So
I've done video shares for I've been doing for the field sketching and nature journaling teaching. I've been creating virtual field trips. So I go and I pre-record using the 3D technology and Google Earth, and actually do like you fly in and boom, and then you can go in. I record it ahead of time, and then I share it from a local video. And that, some people, if you don't have good bandwidth, it doesn't work, but.
That's cool. That's a good way to do that.
It's been really fun, really popular. I'm doing one to Botswana this Saturday.
Nice.
So I'm going to sketch elephants or something.
Nice.
Hmm.
So we've got 11 of us, yay. Well, the fewer people, the more questions we can take.
That's true. Can you all hear that crunching right now? No? Okay, good. My dog found a tortilla chip somewhere. Crunching it really, really loud.
I was on the call with Maya from the Air Institute today, and her dog in the background was on the sofa, and he looked like he was about 6 feet long. He was on his back. It was just, every once in a while, a paw would come up.
Hey, Ben. I didn't know Ben was going to be here.
Just can't stay away.
Hi, Lily. I see some faces I recognized from classes and sketching. We just spent the weekend doing some filming up on Mount Graham, which was really interesting. It's so dry up there. They have not had any rain either. And it was a little scary because there were a lot of people, and I was, how people will start campfires even though there's bands and stuff. It was so dry. But we had a really nice time. It was very cool.
That's good.
Like wearing a parka.
Nice. The other day on one of our meetings, Ben was sitting outside and like fog was rolling in. So like first he put a parka on, then like he needed a blanket. And Clark and I were just like, oh,
Stop it. We're all sweating. Was this when Anna's air conditioning was broken?
Yeah, I was pretty
it
obnoxious.
was actually.
Yeah, it's so obnoxious. The least you could have done. Yeah.
I should have just turned my video off.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
I would have made you.
Did you guys already discuss about the comet? Anybody see the comet?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's stunning.
beautiful.
Yeah, it's lovely up here in Newfoundland.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wow.
That's where you're at right now?
Yeah,
How cool. That is on our list for going. That is like one of the top places we haven't been in North America that we really want to go.
it's the best kept secret on the planet.
Well, we won't tell you.
And July is the time to come. Because
Yeah,
yeah.
for it's about the only window where it's good. That's wonderful.
Yes.
Well, we caught the comet in the morning. We haven't seen it in the afternoon here. I don't think we can see it here in the afternoon, Anna, can we? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think it's like 9:30-ish. Like it's an evening. It gets higher up from the horizon.
Yeah, it's real high right now.
Yeah, we caught it when they first, like, I think it was earlier July. So we got up at 3:00 in the morning and we could see it over the Catalinas.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I've seen some extraordinary pictures.
Kiki, what time does the sun set there? Here.
8:30, 8:45, something like that. So like right now it's 10 o'clock. Or past 10 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
But it's all good. It's cloudy right now. We went through 3 days of really lots of rain. I send it your way. But then when the sun comes out, I mean, like everybody is outside. Everybody's hiking and just, gardening and are outside. It's beautiful. It's fun.
Do you guys generally wait for a certain number of people to come, or how do you?
That's what I was wondering. Should we wait a couple more minutes? Ben, do you have any updates you want to share?
Yeah, super brief. I was just gonna kind of say hi and yeah, just check in really, really quick.
Nice.
I can go with that now if you want. Yeah, cool. Well, anyway, thank you all for sticking with us. Keep sweating it out in many ways. Also, thanks a lot to those that are able to help us with the camera trap processing for the images of the walkers and trying to get a sense of the percentage of mask wearing that's happening on the hill. Really appreciate you joining us in that effort. Really important data. Directly informing multiple conversations we're having right now with leadership at the university. And just as you know, we're keeping our eyes on the situation very, very closely and monitoring what's the best way to kind of try to, yeah, hopefully right the ship and avoid a continuing quagmire of this public health disaster that's surrounding us. So anyway, that's where we are on that. Nothing to report on access or when we can restart about the volunteer program. As you may imagine, things are pretty much exactly where they were last time we touched base on that part. I'm not in Tucson. I am now in Colorado for a little bit. But Anna is holding down the fort. Clark is there as well. We're kind of rotating in and out right now. Trika is out as well. So in the month of July right now, it's a pretty down time. We're just allowing ourselves to kind of catch our breath and try to keep plugging forward. Is there any questions anyone wanted or concerns or anything people want to share? Big picture stuff, just how things. One of the things we've been trying to think is because, this is just indefinite, right? Until we can get you all stewarding in the way we wanted. So we're really curious about ways that you may want to be engaged and connected to the Tumamoc sphere while we can't have you on the hill. So that's where the camera trap thing came through. But we're really interested in other ideas or interests that you all have. And so you can share those now, or of course just email us. But we're so appreciative that you're here, right? So clearly you're super committed, and we just really want to honor that. And keep things plugging away.
If we miss the training for the camera trap, can we still get involved with that?
Totally. It's relatively straightforward. So there's protocols, but then we could also even schedule a pretty quick Zoom meeting. What do you think, on 15 minutes to probably get it across?
It's very straightforward. It's like you just get a batch of photos and you count how many people with masks or not. So I'm going to send a follow-up email to everyone who's currently on the list. If you're interested, I'll copy you on the email also. And then I'll send you the analysis procedures. You can take a look at it. And then if you want to schedule a Zoom meeting or something, we can set one up. Maggie, did I get an email? Okay, yeah. So anybody else who wants to be in on that, just let me know before the end of the session tonight, and I'll make sure you get added to the list. Mary, let me see.
Thank you.
Michael.
Sorry,
Right.
I missed the first session. I was doing something else and spaced it and didn't even get back in time. Sorry.
All right. We have no shortage of images to analyze, so we're not going to run out.
Anna?
Yeah.
I seem to have, I've been working on those camera traps. I have two issues, okay?
Mhm.
I've lost access to the images
Okay.
after several days of of going back to work and doing other things. And then
Okay.
I think it was last week I tried to access it and I couldn't find the files. So I was on page 13 of 25.
Okay.
Another issue I've noticed is there is it's almost like I'm profiling. Sometimes the angle of the shot, I can't tell if that's a male or female.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's almost like I want to just say, are they wearing a mask or not? That's it, rather than characterizing a male wearing mask or female not wearing mask.
So on your analysis sheet, there should be a column for if you cannot identify the gender of the individual. So just go ahead and record them there. And that's why, because a lot of times the person is passing the camera trap at such an angle that you can't always tell.
Okay.
If you're not comfortable making that call, then ND, cannot determine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Lily, I will refresh your access to your box folder. I don't know what's going on with that. I haven't heard that before, but I'll go in and take a look at your settings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, Roseann, thank you so much for jumping on this and sharing with us. I'm gonna kind of segue here by doing a cool plug and announcement. So, in addition to everything Roseann's going to share too, we are feverishly working on the release of, and we're putting out a new series right now, working with others in the environmental landscape across the university, focused on the Bighorn Fire. This is going to be a 3-part, essentially public engagement webinar that is going to hopefully address all of the major questions and concerns that all of us have about what the heck has transpired over the last month. So Roseann is leading this charge with incredible assistance from Anna and myself. So I just pasted the link into the chat box. And so anyway, that's going to be really cool. Roseann, I'll let you mention more about that. But anyway, thank you so much, and pass the mic to you.
All right, Anna, anything else? Am I good to go then?
Yeah, take it away.
Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you for being stewards at Tumamoc. That's just really amazing and such a needed thing. I'm so excited to watch as everybody grows and gets comfortable once we can all get back on the hill and get the program really going. So thank you. I'm Roseann Hanson. I'm the Art and Science Program Coordinator at Tumamoc since last spring. I'm from Tucson. I grew up in Tucson, and I have a degree in ecology and evolutionary biology and journalism from the University of Arizona. And I've been keeping field notes and nature journals for 40 years, since I was very young. And so it's really morphed into something that is a very, very basic part of who I am as a naturalist and how I engage in the natural world. And I feel like you can use notes, nature notes, field sketching, and you don't worry, the drawing part actually can be kind of fun and not that hard. But I'll talk about that when I give my presentation a little bit. But I feel like it's a wonderful way to really immerse yourself and learn observational skills, which as stewards, I think is going to be a really, really important thing for you to, it not only observing nature, but it will help you really hone all observational skills. So you'll find yourself really paying attention more, which is what it's all about. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give a presentation to overview. So normally teaching field sketching, nature journaling is a pretty long process. It's about a 3-day workshop. So this is an overview, and I'm going to show some examples of what I've done on Tumamoc and from others who've taken notes on Tumamoc. So, and at the end, I'll share some resources, my website where I've got links and free downloads and free classes. There are a lot of free tutorials on my website too. So we'll have Q&A, at the end, and whatever questions you have, we'll do that. So I'm going to start with the presentation. And Start there. Oh my goodness, that is not what's supposed to come up. That's hilarious. So there. Did you guys see the pocket gopher?
No.
I kind of wish we had that.
That's hilarious. So my screen's so good. So you saw the field notes in nature Journal? It was just
No, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. I'm glad it was blank. It was a photo from this weekend of a pocket gopher. So I can show it later. So now to get started here, if everyone could do me a favor and make sure you're muted so that if any ancillary noise happens, then it won't bomb the feed for others. You should be seeing the presentation plus a little box with the speaker. So defining what is nature journaling or keeping field notes, field sketching. So at the highest level, I consider it deepening your understanding of nature through deep observation and then recording what you see, as I already sort of hinted at. At an intermediary level, it's a way of formalizing or regularizing your appreciation of nature, and it's a great way to build support for conservation of nature, because the more people pay attention and notice change and record that change, the more they're inclined, or you would be inclined, to want to do something about it. And then really there is a level, a really intimate level. It is a process of education and expansion that will enhance your knowledge, but it also actually boosts your memory, your self-confidence, and your well-being, because it really truly is a type of meditation. It is mindfulness. And I often find that when I'm taking field notes, sketching in the field, I'm completely removed from anything but what I'm observing, and an hour can go by and it feels like 5 minutes. So it really is very, very good for you, as well as a great way to enhance your knowledge. So here's a great quote. I love this quote by Louis Sullivan. He was considered one of the fathers of modernism and the Prairie School, and a mentor of Frank Lloyd Wright. If things but make impression enough on you, you will not forget them. And thus, as you go through life, your store of experiences becomes greater, richer, and more available. But you must cultivate attention, the art of seeing, the art of listening. You needn't trouble about memory, that will take care of itself, but you must learn to live in the true sense. To pay attention is to live, and to live is to pay attention. So to me, that's really the essence of keeping field notes, nature journaling: attention, seeing, listening, paying attention. So I'll keep talking about that as we go along. When we talk about this, we want to say, well, so what's our goal? Why are we doing this? Besides the fact that it's really fun and a very fulfilling pastime. Well, the goals for us in terms of a more scientific, since we're on Tumamoc and we want to be observing the natural world for reasons in addition to just enjoying it, learning about nature means asking questions. And so I'll be covering kind of how we do that when you are keeping field notes in a nature journal. That means finding answers as well. I see a lot of people write a lot of questions, but the really cool thing is going back later and doing all the research and digging down and learning about what you've seen, because you've taken really good notes. And the seeing is not the same as just looking. You can look at a landscape and not see anything. So learning how to see and record that is really the essence of keeping good field notes or a nature journal. And of course, spending time in nature. We all really love that as well. If you see nature journals are the ones that are, you know, more art oriented. They have a lot of sketches and some of them can be quite dauntingly gorgeous. And then field notes, I use that term to indicate something that maybe is more words, prose, maybe diagrams and maps. So I'm using the two sort of interchangeably though. But if you want to get into nature journaling with art, I always try to remind people, you are not trying to be a professional artist. That can really ruin the fun because you won't like what you draw if you're just beginning. So we try to tell people, you're not learning to draw, you're drawing to learn. So that means you use drawing to intensely study a subject. So like say a leaf, and you just stare at that leaf and you draw that one leaf, or you trace that leaf. And as you do that, you're learning so much about it. How many lobes on the leaf? What are the veins like? Which way do the veins go? Are they raised underneath? Are they inset on top? Pretty soon you've actually drawn a leaf and learned a lot about it because you've had to study it to draw it. And another reason you sketch something is to record it very much for identification. So you would measure it, you would make sure that, you know, you write down if there are teeth on the edges of the leaves, or how many, if they're paired, or if they are paired or opposite, that type of thing. So we use drawing to learn about the subjects. Then pretty soon you actually learn to draw, but it takes the pressure off. And you really can learn to sketch. It is something we can all do. The great news with science right now has told us that there is it's actually a fallacy. The left brain, right brain thing really isn't true. People say, "Oh, I'll never be an artist. I'm a science person. I can't draw because, you know, the right brain and left brain, you're either one or the other." Actually, you need both, and all people have the ability to be really good at math or science or good artists. You need both halves to do both. So you can't use that as an excuse anymore. So you will also develop skills as a naturalist. So while you're walking the hill as a steward, I will be advocating for you to keep a little notebook and to observe things and record them. And pretty soon you kind of get into this, hey, well, that Christmas cactus was blooming or fruiting in January. How long did it last? How long were they there? Who ate those fruit? And maybe for the next 4 or 5 months, you're gonna check those fruit every time you go. You will develop fabulous naturalist skills through this act of journaling. That is part of training your mind to see deeply. And I love the phrase intentional curiosity. That's from John Muir Laws, who I'm going to recommend as a teacher. His books are incredible. He's one of the finest teachers and naturalists I've ever met. And he's the one who said, you will develop gratitude, reverence, and the skills of a naturalist. So how do you start? So this is like way back, 1993. These are field notes from a trip we did to the Arctic Ocean. And you can see you don't need a lot of expensive, fancy things. A pen or pencil and a stenographer's notebook was all I needed. But over the years, after college, working as a naturalist in Brown Canyon on the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge, I had developed my field notes in the Grinnell method. This is a bit of a hybrid Grinnell method, but that's a scientific method developed by Joseph Grinnell, who was the first curator at the Museum of Vertebrate Ecology at Berkeley. And he standardized a way for people in the field, scientists, to keep their notes so that they could easily be archived, referred to later, and have a real standard of quality so they could be used in future journals and to support the studies they were doing. So as you can see, I would only just basically draw little leaves, and I just kept field notes. And then as time went on, I started to add a little bit of art with colored pencils. I would glue leaves in. Anybody notice here? This is at Rancho Aribabi in Mexico. I did all my entries in Spanish when I was working down there. So that's a fun thing. And so you can see how I developed now my style from there to over 10 years later. My metadata is more developed. I'll be talking about what that is. So what do I use and how do I do this and what do I recommend? So first of all, I'll always go back to say you only need an inexpensive notebook and a pen. You can do it with a ballpoint pen. You don't need to get super fancy. However, I do want to mention, and I do like to teach this in my workshops, archival paper, if you're going to be doing this for science, for you want to keep your journals in the future, it's really important to use paper that isn't going to crumble, degrade, fall apart. That notebook I showed you from the Arctic, sadly, that's not archival paper. I wrote it in pencil, and most of it I can't read anymore. So that's just heartbreaking, because it was like we kayaked down the Mackenzie River and down the Bering Sea, and my field notes, I can't read them anymore. So if you really want to make sure your notes last, I recommend, you want acid-free, lignin-free paper. Actually, it's lignin-free is what you mostly want to look for. So I go, cotton is probably one of the best ways to get around that. This is my part of my archival system. That's about 30 years, 25 years of journals there. And that's why I do it that way, so that I just use these inexpensive 3-ring binders and take them out of my leather journal. And now I can find my notes from anywhere. We refer to them for articles, for work that we're doing. So I can always lay my hands on them. And it's fun to just go back and see them. Some types of notebooks you might use. There's some good brands like Moleskine, Strathmore. Some people use toned paper. It's tan paper or gray, and then they use either dark ink or even white to sketch. It's pretty interesting. What are other good brands? That's the linen one in the background is called Handbook. That's another good journal brand. Use whatever. Those are all archival quality. And then for just go minimalist. The Field Notes brand, this is I think 3 by 5 inches, 5.5 by 3.5 inches. The Field Notes, Moleskine is the same size, the little 72 or 48 pages. Total, fits in a pocket. I use these for when I'm going fast on a journey where I need to just take quick notes. Then at the end of the day, I'll actually put these in my larger journal. But some people just do their entire journals on these little micro field notes. They're wonderful. You can actually see there under my lights, those are the little field notes archived there. And those have indexes to all my years of notes. So I can find things by species and stuff like that. So for pens, people ask, so what do you need? I like to go make sure I have waterproof and, if possible, permanent ink. You can go as simple as the Uniball roller pens. Personally, I don't like throwing away plastic pens all the time. I go through a lot of ink, so I don't like plastic waste. However, I found these Onyx rollerball pens, which are waterproof permanent ink, and they're made from post-consumer recycled plastic, so that's nice. I use a fountain pen and document ink from DR Metris or Platinum Carbon. Those are two brands. Those are waterproof, so I can do watercolor over them. And they're also archival, so they're not gonna fade or go away over time. So that's important. But again, you can do this with the ballpoint pen. It just doesn't matter. These are just kind of the fun things. I know sometimes the tools and the fun stuff like buying watercolors and all that, you can really go down a rabbit hole. It's really fun. I certainly love the kit that goes with it. If you want to add color, watercolors and a little travel brush like this, or a water brush, or colored pencils are nice and simple. And then they make this wonderful thing called watercolor pencils that are pencils that the lead inside is actually compressed watercolor. So you can color on your page just like you would with colored pencils, but then when you wash it with water, it becomes a lovely watercolor wash. So different things work great. You can add color or not. I find it really fun and satisfying. So I'm completely self-taught. I should have mentioned, I didn't study art. I've never studied art. I just, a few years ago, just decided to get serious. Took a lot of online classes, books by John Muirlaws, and just started with the basics and I taught myself by doing. And it just takes, like anything, you have to keep up with it. And I'll talk about that, just kind of making it a routine. If I don't do this for weeks on end, I will lose some of these skills. It's like a language. I won't be as good at sketching quickly. I'll lose my watercolor juju. So I have to do this frequently in order to retain those skills. It's just like anything. There are no rules. I really like to emphasize that. I've taken classes from people that drives me a bit nuts when they insist that you use just the brand of watercolor and exactly the colors they do, and you have to buy brushes from them, and there's all these rules you have to follow, and I think that stops us from having fun and learning. So throw the rules out. So what is this that I'm talking about? How do I get this started? How do you start if you're interested in keeping field notes? And the backbone of the whole thing is routine, making sure this is kind of something that's part of what you do. So as Tumamoc stewards, it's having that notebook with you and remembering to take notes. It's as simple as just, you do this every time, it becomes normal. It becomes part of your routine of walking the hill. Or right now we can't be on the hill, so we are doing it, out walking on the Riedo path, or enjoying the maybe going down to Molino Bay, Madera Canyon and something like that. So you can take field notes there. Just make it part of what you do. It is a routine. It's simply part of your of the process of being outdoors. So to make a nature journal more useful for scientific purposes, or even for just to give it elevate it to a level that makes it useful rather than just pretty, is something I really, really push hard on. And people in the Nature Journal Club online now tease me because I'm all about metadata. I'm like, did you remember the metadata? Because if you draw something or you take notes on it and you didn't tell me where it is, you didn't locate it in time and space, then it really isn't going to be super helpful for learning something about it, or much more than just a pretty picture. So what's useful? Metadata. So I use it also, this process of writing down all these things. This is how I get started. This is how I center myself, how I remove my brain from the craziness of the day and all the texts. I turn off, my phone goes to do not disturb, and I center myself. so that this is part of my process of getting center to start. The date, the place, longitude and latitude, elevation. I always have the sunrise, sunset times, what the weather was at sunrise, the moon phase. I put the high and the low temperature. And then because I'm a complete weather nerd, my dad built me one of those little white louvered weather stations when I was 8 years old. And so I would check the weather every single day. And then lo and behold, when we were working in Brown Canyon, I got to do it for a job. It was really awesome. And so I love the symbols. So I make symbols too. That symbol showing there is actually the wind speed and direction. And it's an open circle because it's clear. There aren't any clouds. But if it were cloudy, I would have drawn in the cloud symbols. And I'm actually going to share with you the National Weather Service or the NOAA cheat sheet for all these symbols. It's really kind of cool. Why do I put this in? Well, say I take notes on, I think, let's see, I'm in far southeastern Arizona, and I think I saw a turkey vulture in, let's say, November, but gosh, if I just write that in my journal and I don't write it's November, I'm not going to be able to check back and see if I've actually observed turkey vultures that late in the winter, or because normally they leave our region in September-ish. So let's also say I observed a bunch of deer out one evening, and it was pretty dark, and I don't normally see them on Tumamoc in the dark. But was it a certain moon phase? So these might, we don't know if the information is going to be useful or not, but it might help you learn more about species and their behaviors or migrations or something like that. So after we do our metadata, then what do you write? Good heavens, that it just seems like so daunting. People get very intimidated by the whole process of what do we record? So I break it down into, just keeping it simple, 3 categories. You can record your data just by words, like you saw I did in my early field notes in Brown Canyon. It can be visual. You can do charts, you can do little sketches, you can do maps, you can do interesting schematics. Doesn't have to be all words. And then numerical, you can express data by counting things, counting individual species. How many hummingbirds did you identify walking from mile 1 to mile 2? You can count all sorts of things. And I'll show you examples. So as you've already seen written data, this is just straight prose. Here's the day at Tumamoc in May 30th, 2019. I've done my metadata, I've centered myself, I've wrote what time it is, what the temperature was when I arrived, the breeze, that I heard lots of cicadas. So now, you know, I can, years from now, I can go back and say, oh, I was already hearing cicadas by May 30th, or ash-throated flycatchers calling. I noted more or less how many saguaros were starting to bloom. It was just I'm just estimating, but it's an interesting thing. And then how the brittlebrush are starting to go dormant and casting a different color to the hill. So as I've had a couple of years now of Tumamoc notes, the colors of the hill change wildly over time. And it's wonderful to go back and look at your notes and see that happening. Visual data, here's an example of I decided to visually represent all the bird song, what they call the dawn chorus, from low to high frequency and when they called. So at every hour on the hour, I went and I recorded, and those are the ABA bird codes for the name of the bird. So ABTO is Abert's Towie, HOFI, Hofi is house finch. And I just made an estimate of, okay, house finches were, this is dead on spring, this is March. And you know, who was calling the longest? There's a funny thing in the middle where I saw two verdins mating, and yeah, that was awesome. So, and then the different colors are representing, was it song or was it a call? They're two different things. So really, you don't have to be able to draw and sketch to represent data visually. These kinds of charts are super fun. I had so much fun with this. Here's another way of representing data. You can count things. This is by a young woman named Fiona Gillogly. I think she was only 14 at the time she did this. She drew a little schematic around a pond, and then within those areas that she identified the different flowers, she went in, set the area, and counted exactly how many individuals in each quadrant and charted it out. So, and then she did what percentage of total each one represented. What a cool way to do data numerically, but you get a really, really great sense of what's going on. And she put her metadata in. This is the Grinnell method, and you can also do maps. I often do maps. And the Grinnell is very prose oriented, along with lists at the back of the notebook of just species, but you can see just, there's so many different ways you can record data. It doesn't have to all be the same. So if you get kind of gripped and you're kind of like, wow, I still don't know where to start. There's like birds singing everywhere and deer running across the road, and you know, what do I write down? John Muir-Laws recommends these 3 great prompts, like how to sort of focus yourself. And you'll see that on my entries, the I see part is often how I start out. I just sort of get myself into the groove by writing a paragraph or two, literally describing, like I read to you, you know, what I was hearing at Tumamoc, what I saw, what it smells like, just what's going on. Literally, you're being a journalist. What do you see? The second one is to ask questions. I wonder why I always see roadrunners by the agave garden. So if you pay attention and look there every time, you'll probably find their nest, or at least notice that there's a pair that is somewhere right around there. Ben probably knows exactly where their nest is. No? Oh, we're gonna have to find out. And then a third prompt is using "it reminds me of." In other words, associate what you're seeing or smelling or hearing with something that is known to you. So let me show you some examples here. So here's a page from last year in Botswana. And so the I wonder part, I kept observing zebras would be walking along, and all of them in unison would be tossing their heads and flapping their lips, like really flapping their lips, very loosely, like there's no muscle control at all. Had no idea why they do this. Is it for cooling or whatever? So I put a question mark. I wonder why zebras do that. I still haven't found the answer. Some people say horses do it, but there's I can't find any science evidence of why they do it. Maybe they just like to do it. Then it reminds me of, so I was trying to, and here's a great way you can sketch without actually drawing, is these little stick figure guys, right? So I didn't try to draw the impala, which are really hard to draw. I did little stick figures, but I was trying to say how they jump. And so I said it reminded me of the way llamas, if you've seen llamas hold their necks weird, or it was just a comparison. So by calling that out. And then the IC part is literally, I always have a list going of species that I just keep adding to throughout the day or week or month that I'm in the field. And then the sort of another part of the process is, so how do you figure out like, oh, wow, you did all these pretty drawings and everything. Well, when I wrote this page, I would just write my prose description. And then I left the space for, I don't know what I was going to see. I ended up seeing this eagle, which ended up being a martial eagle sketch, just a little quick sketch there. I drew the box first, so I didn't even know what I was going to put in there, but at some point during the day, learned about the fact that termites create the islands in the Okavango Delta. Crazy stuff. And then we didn't know whether they ate live wood or only dead wood, so that was a good question. So these are ways to make pages have more things on them and sort of get that designy thing going if you want to do nature journaling, or not. You just do write lists or draw maps. We'll take a look at that. So you have to remember though to see and not just look. So if I had not been studying the zebras, if I was just looked, oh yeah, zebra, moving on. I was actually paying attention, why are they flapping their lips? Or observing papyrus in the Okavango. I was paying attention. Is it native? I don't know. I need to look that up. And I just realized I haven't looked that up yet. I don't know if it's introduced or native. So just to recap, having a routine, doing it regularly, recording data. I should have put in here metadata, the 3 types of data. So the written, the numerical, the visual. And it's okay to record your feelings too. If something makes you really happy or not, that's great. Engaging all your senses, using the prompts if you feel stuck, and asking questions and finding answers, because that's how you become really good naturalists. And you need to see and not just look. So I'm going to show you an example of how I did all this at Tumamoc. Starting with my metadata, and then a few lines of written data. And what was I doing? So I had stepped out from the building where the Paul Maroka, the arts people, Gary Nabhan, and a few others are, I think building 802, but I call it the arts building. And I heard a Costas hummingbird. So I could have approached this a number of different ways. I could have sat down and spent a while observing the hummingbird and sketching the hummingbird. But instead, I did something a little different. After I wrote my metadata and some prose about it, I decided to do a schematic, basically a map of hummingbird behavior. So I sat and observed the hummingbird for, I don't know, half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. And what he was doing after I observed for quite a while was he was moving from perch to perch over and over and over, the same 3 perches, and then doing his zing, zing, zing. And so I decided, oh, well, that would be cool. I'll do a schematic. You don't have to be able to draw hummingbirds to do that. So, and I even drew the hummingbird from the top, because anybody can draw 2 circles, right? And the little beak. So that showed the fact that he was sitting on his perches, swinging his head back and forth and back and forth. And then I did a legend, so you could see that, he was changing the type of shrub he was perching on, what it was like around him, how far he was going from perch to perch. So And then I realized that brought up a question: how big is Acosta's hummingbird's territory? Is it the same every year? Do they overlap with other species? I don't know. So I should know. So that's something I need to research. So that is one way to approach this type of recording. It's really fun. You can really go down a rabbit hole doing schematics and maps like this. It's a lot of fun, and you learn an awful lot. And now I'm going to show you some pages from people who've come up on the hill with me, nature journaling, and when we were doing our free nature journaling walks. This are pages from a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they had never nature journaled before. And we were walking up the hill, and so I stopped and I asked them what they thought this stuff was over on the west side. Bunch of bright red stuff, fruits on sticks. So we had a whole, spent 45 minutes talking about all the different Christmas cactus. And then they drew a map. We decided it was really interesting that they seemed to be a certain distance apart. Then hummingbird came and they drew the hummingbird. I just thought these kids nailed it. Note taking this is with no prompts at all. They just sat down and we talked and they wrote down what we saw, the wash with the caliche in it. And I thought this was super cool. And they had some really good, so I had asked them, what do you think eats the Christmas cactus? And they had some really good guesses. They made some guesses. Javelinas, birds. They asked some really good questions. Another woman who was with us, she's a professional artist. So you go, oh my gosh. But this is a really fun way to do it. So she drew almost a cartoon kind of thing. And remember when I said you can say what something reminds you of. So she said, the spines are colored like candy corns. No, that's all I can think of when I see Christmas cactus. And you only notice that if you stop and pay attention. So it's the paying attention and observing. So those of you who have come on the free nature journaling walks, you'll know that sometimes we'll spend 2 hours going 100 meters. It can be so much fun. Sometimes we'll make it all the way up, but most of the time we just enjoy seeing small things. So John Muir Laws said, your observations, questions, and reflections will enrich your experiences and develop gratitude, reverence, and the skills of a naturalist. If you train your mind to see deeply and with intentional curiosity, the world will open before you. And I just really think that sums up what not just nature journaling and field notes are about, but that's what science is about. That's what Tumamoc is about. It is based on intentional curiosity. It was founded by people who, with an unbounded appetite for finding answers to questions. So field notes and nature journaling is just part of that continuum. So to learn more, I would highly recommend John Muir Laws' books, fabulous. He founded the Nature Journal Club on Facebook, which now has 15,000 members. Really a great, it's free, but you do have to join. It's kind of private, so you don't get anybody but people interested in field notes and nature journaling. Look for online classes this fall and winter through at Tumamoc, and then I also do a lot of free ones and paid ones. I'm actually doing one this weekend for the Natural History, not this weekend, next weekend, the Natural History Institute in Prescott. And then a lot of this stuff is on my website, exploringoverland.com, field arts, tons of free workshops. And if you guys are interested in my book, I've done a code for a $5 off only for Tumamoc Stewards. So if you want to order the book which has all this in it. I mean, there's so much more to kind of delve into. You are more than welcome. So I think now we can kind of do some questions, and if people want to see certain things, I can jump to that. And go ahead and unmute and ask questions. There's only a few of us, so. Yeah, Rachel.
Hi. Oh my goodness. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. That was wonderful. It's very impressive. And I've never, I guess I've never really thought of taking notes in the way that in the way that you presented. I'm just used to, just observations, no drawings whatsoever. But that was so impressive. And I was wondering, for the one about the bird calls, it looks so neat. Was that like your final transcription?
Oh, good question.
Okay.
I took prose notes on that
Okay.
because I was going out and listening and just taking notes, and then I drew the chart, and it took a couple iterations, especially when I decided to try to represent the frequencies, like
Right.
mourning doves up to the Bell's Furios all the way up to the highest frequency we could think of. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I don't know birds very well other than just visually, but sound wise, I would be so overwhelmed. I was just wondering how you did all that.
I used to lead birding tours 25 years ago and learned to bird by ear so that I could find birds for people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really like it anymore because it made me lazy, because I can go walking along and go, oh yeah, verdin, oh yeah, this. So I did it to Ben. I'm like, oh yeah, broad-tailed hummingbird. And it made me lazy because I didn't actually study the bird. I didn't look at it. I didn't even stop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's useful for doing surveys.
Yeah.
And if you want to get paid as a birding guide.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
You bet, sure. Any other questions?
Could you share in the chat or show again about the book and the order?
Yes, I have those. Let me grab those. So hang on, I'm finding the links. Hold on. There's two links here. There's a Dropbox where I put some free, like the weather tips and or weather symbols, and then also let's see if those come out. And then kind of how to get quickly started sketching. When I teach sketching, so I do it really differently. I try to get people started by what I call dot mapping. So when you're like just sketching a leaf, and I teach this in workshops and stuff, but it's really simple. And I didn't think of it. Mark Taro Holmes thought of this. Literally, you just put a bunch of little tiny dots on your page, just you sort of index out what you want to draw. That way you don't have to commit and get all like, oh my gosh, I'm drawing. And then using shapes, so looking at big shapes. And I've got some free tutorials on the website if you wanted to jump into sketching, but it's fun to watch people who've never sketched before. If they just turn off the part of the brain where you're afraid of failing, it's like the kids that I've worked with can really do a great job sketching because they haven't learned to judge themselves yet. And about junior high school is when after junior high school is when they start going, no, I can't sketch. Either they've been told they can't sketch, or they're hearing it from their parents, or they're, something. But the little kids, like the 8 and 9-year-old or 7 and 9-year-old who came, they'd never drawn really before. They just jumped right in. It was like crazy. It's because they haven't told themselves yet they can't do it. So it really is fun to do, and you learn a lot if you try to draw something. Any other questions?
I may just add something. This is so inspiring, Roseann. Thank you. So I'm a avid field notebook person. This is my field notebook right here. And I would just say maybe there's a couple things that come to my mind when just that you hit on that how I use them too. So there's so many things, right? So they're so useful for, I mean, that it's like, this is the core of science. This is observations. This is, I mean, the question piece and putting those question marks so then you can circle in on where your questions were and find your way as kind of a map through your notebooks. But also one of the things they are for me is a portal through time, like a very personal portal. So, you know, and what I found through the years is if I write very detailed pieces, like kind of minutia detail of what I'm thinking that day, what's happening, like the more detailed I can get, that's the stuff that's gold in the future. When I come back to that, there's no way in heck I'd be able to remember that stuff. But there it is preserved at that time. And the other piece that man, there's so much with is the drawings and the sketchings, because they capture, and they're like another layer of portals that can connect you to that point and place in time in a way that words never can. And so for just example, so when I spent several days watching the Bighorn fire, and this is just a couple images from here, just following, you can see there the helicopters doing the dropping. And I was doing this on the fly, went over, catching this on the other side of Pima Canyon, the slurry lines, going through all these notes of trying to capture what I was observing, going forward. And that, I mean, that image there is going to take me back to what those moments were in the fire, way better than the notes will too. So here was when Catalina State Park was just burning down, and through that. Yeah, I mean, I'm a super fan. Roseann, your work's just beautiful, so inspiring, and again, it's such a foothold in terms of our observations, and also, I mean, I think they're very personal. It's our passage through time. I mean, sometimes people ask, like, okay, what would be the thing you could take from your house if, you know, it was burning? My field notebooks.
Yeah, that I think about having mine all together. I used to keep them in the fireproof safe, but I want them here with me. So it's a risk. Thank you for sharing.
Did Roseann freeze for others?
I think so, yeah. She froze for me too.
Uh-oh.
Well, maybe I can speak up. I really like her book. I bought her book.
Oh, cool.
And it's actually, you know, she's too modest to say how good it is. Okay. It's actually an 8-week course. So, and you go at your own speed. It's really nicely illustrated. Okay. So there are some some empty pages in the back and some templates that you could use too. And it's not that expensive. It's really a great hobby. Good fun.
So have you been doing the exercises?
I look through it, and then I'm only on week number 2, but I go back and learn, you know, and learn different things, and then I set it down. But my nature journaling book is in the other room. And I found out clouds are very difficult to draw, but luckily, you know, but we haven't had much clouds here. Okay. So yeah, I've been tracking a hummingbird in my backyard. So she gave me some ideas.
How fun.
I have to say, this is Jeannie, that in addition to the drawing part, what can be intimidating for me is I don't know the names of all those plants or those birds. So what do? Put yellow plant or something, or or some kind of bird. It sounds like if you've got a degree in ornithology, you do a lot better on a nature journal. But so that for me has sometimes seemed a little intimidating.
Little tricks though. I mean, I don't know if you like taking pictures of things with your camera phone, you can even just take the picture with your phone, record the date, time, maybe the file number or whatever, put that in your notebook, maybe try to do a little sketch, and then you have that as a little anchor point that you can go back to and identify.
Right. That makes sense for me. But that
Well, I
it
used
sounds
to-
like a lot of nature journaling is putting stuff down, but then really finishing it later.
It's a
Well, I
mix.
used to use journals in the field method class that I taught at Santa Cruz. And our purpose was, first of all, to work on writing, descriptive writing. I got a lot of them to start putting drawings in, but that took a while. And one of the challenges was if you see a bird, a beetle, a plant that you can't identify, write a description of it, bring that to someone, and see if they can identify it from your written description. And that's a challenge to descriptive writing.
Yeah, those are good suggestions.
Another piece, and this was interesting to me, because I try to, I don't know, I view my stuff as, well, anyway, I won't go into my stuff. So I'm working with an archaeologist, and he was a great example to me. His name's Tom Bowen, incredible archaeologist, working in the islands of the Gulf of California. And he's an impeccable scientist. I mean, I've learned, try to model my approach to science after him in questioning everything. But one of the things he taught to me was his field notes is a place to explore and be wrong. And so we're actually communicating with Tom about taking his archive. And I was like, Tom, would love to be able to have your field notes as repository. He said, I'm burning those. I said, well, you're what? He said, there are things I'm incorrect. People look at my field notes and they base, that this is accurate information on that this is, I'm wrong. Like half of this stuff is just guesswork. It's like my repository. I don't want anybody possibly in time basing, and I've done, so going off of a botanist, Reed Moran's field notes, I've seen sometimes he, there's this one day he made these incredible plant collections on an island and he wrote southwest corner, but based on his description, I know it's not the southwest corner, right? Like we screw up. I do that all the time. It's really interesting. Each person's approach to their field notes is so distinct. And I just think the questions you're asking, it's like, it's okay to be wrong completely. And Mary, you said in the notes, opportunity to learn, that's the biggest thing.
I think one of my main obstacle, I'm still a novice in doing nature journaling. One of the obstacles I had, and I attended one of Roseann's online classes, was I tend to be a perfectionist. Mm-hmm. So it's the adult brain in me and saying, you're not an artist. But then, at the same time, I feel like if I'm not having fun with this, I'm not going to do it. If I set the bar so high, I'm not going to do it. And when I'm looking at an item and I'm really focused in on it, I forget all about this pandemic thing, okay, and the anxiety associated with it. And I'm just focused in on it and then start drawing lines. And then after a while, when I'm done, I turn back, I put the notebooks away and then come back a couple hours later and take a look and say, oh, that looks pretty good. Okay, so yeah, so it's fun.
Lauren, you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry about that. For some reason, it wouldn't let me unmute. I had a couple questions. One, I was curious about photos, and Ben kind of answered that a little bit. Like, how much photography do you take and then use later? Ben was like, make a note, use it as a reference. So, so I think that's kind of answered. But two other things. One, I'm curious about like the watercolor aspects. Like, it looks like you only had like 2 or 3 colors. Like, do you just use red, blue, yellow and mix everything? Like, how do you handle it? I started doing watercolor like a couple months ago, and it is still very intimidating. So, oh no. I don't think your mic is working, Roseann.
I'm not hearing you, Roseann.
There.
Oh. No.
All right, how's that?
Oh, there we go.
My fancy mic didn't like the meltdown that my so it resets, so it all sounds tinny. The watercolor is a difficult media, but it's also super portable, and it's really useful. And yes, I use I used to like have 20 colors and so much stuff that my backpack would be really heavy, and I couldn't find the right pens brushes, and I just was juggling stuff. So I've pared everything down to a minimalist approach. So one brush, one little thing of water, and a little card that sits in the back of my that just holds everything. And then I can walk with it. And yeah, I use a triad. So the yellow, the blue, and the magenta. And then 2 extra colors. Now I actually use 5 is burnt sienna and a dark blue. You can make any color you need with it and go really fast. And I write about it on my website. There's like a little minimalist approach. It takes a little practice, and you have to use certain ones. You can't, if you're interested, I'd be happy to, like, we could jump on a call sometime, because I try to cover why you can't just use any blue or any yellow, or certain ones only work. So, but yeah, it's fun. And then you're not spending so much time getting all your crap out.
And then other question I had, this reminded me a lot of, I was a geology major in college. So it reminded me of obviously my field studies class, but also my sedimentology class. Like, do you ever do like geology, strat columns or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, let me see. Let me see if I can switch to this camera here.
While Roseanne's saying that, I had the opportunity to go with some geologists in Baja California in November. And I was like doing sketches and just like getting everything I possibly could down. It was such a different way of seeing the landscape. It was so fun.
So
it's nice because rocks don't move.
I did some tutorials on how to do these cube landscapes, like to slice the landscape into imaginary, so you can see down below. So here's Tumamoc and Anklam. I did the same thing with, and there's a tutorial on this. So here's Cave Creek Canyon and Portal. So yeah, I do. I haven't done specifically like going to like a road cut or someplace where the strata is super, because on this one I'm imagining it, I'm not actually seeing it. So, but yeah, that would be absolutely something you would want to draw and get down. I'm trying to think if there's another instance I can grab where I did, but rocks are actually pretty hard to draw. And there's a gentleman named Ryan Pedersen. He's the field coordinator for Stanford University. And he and I have been doing some co-workshops together. And he's a geologist and he loves rocks. So he and I we're working on a really complicated how to draw specific types of rocks. So you can
those cubes were beautiful.
They're so much fun. They're a lot of fun.
Roseann, how would you answer Lauren's question about the photos? I kind of gave my quick dirty one, but I'm curious how you handle that.
So I didn't hear the question, but so I always take reference photos just in case when I get back, maybe I've forgotten something. Photos in and of themselves, I don't find useful for the purpose, for what I use nature journals or field notebooks for. I use them as backup and references, and I'll make a note in the journal, took photo at, and I'll put the coordinates. If it's a species that maybe I don't know and I got a photo of it. But many people do use them. A lot of people have been using iPads or tablets and an app called Paper, or I think there's one called one, something like that. And you can use it as the journal and actually take photos and then write prose. You can record sound. And I mean, it's incredibly rich, but my only caveat, like most technology, in 10 years, you're probably not going to be able to access the language that that was written in. Just like I don't know how many people still have little discs, you know, the little hard computer discs in a drawer somewhere. Or who uses CDs anymore, that type of thing. So you risk having all your data being lost in a form that can't be accessed. That would be the only thing. I don't know if that answered your question about photos specifically. What was the exact?
I guess I was more just curious about like how you would use photos. Like, you know, do you think it might make you too lazy for the, you know, observation aspect of it? Or
Yeah, I think it can. I can drop really quickly into just walking along and, oh, snap a pic. I'm going to draw that later, you know, in the comfort of the air conditioning. That type of thing where if I make myself do it on site, I notice more, I learn more. But that said, having those snaps is really useful if I've forgotten something, or, you know, I did not draw that zebra on site. Sometimes I'll draw like right there, but if you're, you know, the person you're with is like, I don't want to wait for you to draw a stupid zebra. You got to move on. So I did it later with a photo.
Roseann, I had a question about the collection of field notes that you have. Do you create an index, or have you started indexing them?
Yes. So the index, so here's my 2020. Yeah, this started January 1. I do it yearly, January 1, 2020. So it's just really simple. The first half are species and phenomenon. There. And literally, what page, I number all my pages. And then I'll put a little symbol for the date. So 0110 is January 10. Since this is 2020, I don't have to put 20. Mm-hmm. So when 2020 is over, this is done, even if it's not full. So I have all the years, and then I have place names in the back.
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
That way you can access it.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan's always asking to borrow my field notes for articles that he's writing, and I'm starting to charge him for it.
Hey, it's an archive. You got reproduction fees, access fees.
Totally. Yeah, it used to be in the form of dinners out, but now I can't do that right now.
The indexing just seems so daunting to me.
You gotta keep up with it.
I do a table of contents.
I think that works well too, just to jog your memory.
But it's at the species level, forget about it. No, I mean, that doesn't capture that.
I try to do it once a month.
Well,
sometimes I'll have too many months.
That's cool. You can tell I love this topic. I could talk forever. So I hate to drag you on, but Anna, do you mind maybe sharing briefly about your approach to field notes and just from the different discipline?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
So I would say archaeological field notes. It's interesting what you mentioned about Tom and his approach and how he views them. A lot of field notes when you're doing an excavation do contain ideas that ultimately turn out to be incorrect. So part of what you're documenting as you're excavating are potential interpretations, because it's a reflexive process where your current understanding of what you're excavating is directing what you're going to excavate next. And as you uncover more information, you're finding out whether your earlier suppositions were correct or not. Similar structure in terms of capturing metadata, and kind of an additional component there of like live cataloging. So in an excavation context, you have your official artifact and photo logs and everything where you're cataloging everything as you're producing it. But there's also like an informal cataloging that you do in your field notes where you're keeping track of particular things that, you know, particular sherds you might uncover that day, or unusual things that when you get into your analysis, you know, by the time you get to the analysis stage, the 10 sherds you found that were interesting today are 10 out of 300,000. So being able to find them is important. So it's a similar process. The illustration component is usually done either in the field notes or as a separate component. So like when I did my excavations of my field site, just like speaking about drawing rocks, we had to set up grids and individually plot the actual physical location of tens of thousands of rocks that made up the architecture. So because of the bulk of them, I'll show you, hold on. So these are my, these are the unit illustrations. So this is like excavation unit by excavation unit, just whatever is in there. And then elevations with the total station is what those numbers are. So you're recording that as well. So this is actually done separately because you can't put this in a field notebook easily. But it's a very similar process. It's just broken up a little bit differently.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. It's so similar though to the scientific method. The Grinnell method is very much the same. If you were collecting or banding birds or taking plant samples, you would have the same catalog in the back of your field notes. It's exactly the same principle with numbers, and you know, so those are going to go in herbaria or collections. So and I think that I would have to say though that and just for lack of a better word, amateur field notes, nature journaling by people who aren't working scientists are still super important and super valuable. It's citizen science. It does make a really big contribution to our knowledge and your knowledge, because you're going to end up sharing it with people. So that is powerful when you learn, you know, to share with people on the hill when you know, oh, did you guys notice, you know, the two deer, did you know those are probably young of the year, and mom and her two babies, and you know, they only mate at this time of year. It's just good. It's so fun to share that with people and watch and the excitement. So don't, you know, you don't have to be a scientist and publishing things to enjoy and take really great field notes. It's really rewarding and fun. I mean, I never knew where mine would take me. I've now got several books that were came out. I used my field notes for. Our Southern Arizona Nature Almanac was, you know, what, 5 years of field study and field notes. So definitely try it out and then share. And if you have questions, I'm always available, email or whatever. And eventually we'll be back in person and we'll walk the hill together and take notes. It's really fun. It's fun to see how what everyone sees.
Thank you, Roseann. That was great.
You're welcome. Thank you. Sorry about the impromptu demonstration. So Anna and I did that on purpose, just to prove that we could get ready for the Bighorn Fire and have an alternate host.
Flowing.
Really?
It worked. I am so glad. Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I need a new computer, apparently.
Oh. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Thank you. And please, questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thanks, Roseann.
What about the data collection?
What component, Maggie?
How are you going to get those of us who missed the talk involved? What do you want from us? What do you need?
So
from
I'm
me?
going to send out an email to the current group of analysts, copied to those of you who expressed interest today, so that everyone's on the same page there. And then anyone who's interested in joining who didn't get a chance to join us for the first training session, I'm going to send you the protocol and you can look through that. And then just get back to me and let me know if you want to set up a short Zoom meeting to do like an in-person training, and we'll go ahead and schedule that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I think Lily may have already left, but Diane, you're still here. I just sent you the refreshed link to your box folder, so that should be working.
Right.
Hey, Ben, what's the temperature where you're sitting there?
Really want to know. It's like about 71, 68, I think.
Woohoo!
Where are you two in Colorado?
Say that again.
Where are you two in Colorado?
Oh, we're up, and we're with my folks as well. We're in the Rockies, just above Boulder.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, say hello to my family.
Good night, you all.
Thank you, everyone.
That was great. Thank you.
Bye. All right, ending.